Amendments to MARPOL Annex 6. Data collection system for fuel oil consumption of ships. The Marine Environment Protection Committee, having considered, at its 70th session, proposed amendments to MARPOL Annex 6 concerning the data collection system for fuel oil consumption, and this amendments shall enter into force on 1st March 2018. With growing concerns of environment, the International Maritime Organization IMO, the main regulatory body for shipping, has developed technical and operational measures for Energy Efficiency Design Index, Energy Efficiency Operational Index, Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan in order to regulate shipping energy efficiency, and thereby control the marine GHG emissions. Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Data Collection System applies to ships in the case of 5,000 gross tonnage and above. The SEAMP shall be amended to include data collection systems by December 31, 2018 as a result of the MEPC 70th session, and individual ships after January 1, 2019 shall be required to comply with the methodology specified in the SEAMP. Existing SEAMP provides a possible approach for monitoring ship and fleet efficiency performance over time and some options to be considered when seeking to optimize the performance of the ship, and it is replaced by SEAMP Part 1. Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Data Collection System is replaced by SEAMP Part 2. And ART 2 provides the methodologies ships of 5,000 gross tonnage and above should use to collect the data required pursuant to Regulation 22A of MARPOL Annex 6 and the processes that the ship should use to report the data to the ship's administration or any organization duly authorized by it. Ultimately, GHG emissions can be calculated through Part 2. And since this series of activities is closely related to the energy efficiency activities of Part 1, it is essential to carry out activities to improve energy efficiency of Part 1. The following information shall be submitted to the IMO Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Database. Identity of the ship. Period of calendar year for which the data is submitted. Gross tonnage. Net tonnage. Deadweight tonnage. Power output, rated power, of main and auxiliary reciprocating internal combustion engines over 130 kW. EEDI. ICE class. Fuel oil consumption. By fuel oil type in metric tons and methods used for collecting fuel oil consumption data. Distance traveled. Hours underway. Let's see how to measure fuel consumption. Using bunker delivery notes. This method determines the annual total amount of fuel oil used based on BDNs, which are required for fuel oil for combustion purposes delivered to and used on board a ship in accordance with Regulation 18 of MARPOL Annex 6. Annual fuel oil consumption would be calculated as follows. Using flow meters. This method determines the annual total consumption of fuel oil by measuring the remaining amount of the fuel oil tank through indirect reading using an automation systems. Using fuel oil tank monitoring. This method determines the annual total consumption of fuel oil by measuring the remaining amount of the fuel oil tank through indirect reading using an automation systems. Using fuel oil tank monitoring. This method determines the residual amount of the fuel oil tank and the total annual consumption of the fuel oil by directly measuring the tank using sounding or dip tapes. Let's see method to measure distance traveled. The distance traveled while the ship is underway under its own propulsion should be included into the aggregated data of distance traveled for the calendar year. Distance traveled over ground in nautical miles should be recorded in the logbook. Distance traveled is measured using a satellite data. In any case, the method of measurement shall be recorded in detail in SEAMP. Let's see method to measure hours underway. Hours underway should be an aggregated duration while the ship is underway under its own propulsion. The hours underway should be recorded in the logbook. The period during anchorage should be excluded from the hours underway. Let's see procedure that will be used to report the data to the administration. From calendar year 2019, each ship of 5,000 gross tonnage and above shall collect the data specified in Appendix 1. For that an, each subsequent calendar year or portion thereof, as appropriate, according to the methodology included in this plan. At the end of each calendar year, the ship shall aggregate the data collected in that calendar year or portion thereof, as appropriate. Within 3 months after the end of each calendar year, the ship shall report to its administration the aggregated value for each datum specified in Appendix 1, via electronic communication and using a standardized format to be developed by the organization. On ships which verification has been completed, a statement of compliance shall be issued by the administration. The administration shall ensure that the reported data noted in Appendix 1 to this annex by its registered ships of 5,000 gross tonnage and above are transferred to the IMO Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Database via electronic communication and using a standardized format to be developed by the organization not later than 1 month after issuing the statements of compliance of these ships. On the basis of the reported data submitted to the IMO Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Database, the Secretary General of the organization shall produce an annual report to the Marine Environment Protection Committee summarizing the data collected, the status of missing data, and such other relevant information as may be requested by the committee. You have successfully completed training on data collection system for fuel oil consumption of ships. Thank you for watching.